Okay, so we're going to talk about this case. This is a really heartbreaking case. We're going to call her Fawzia because that's what she went by. Her full name is Fawziyah Javed, and we're going to talk about 2021 for this case, but I'm going to call her Fawzia because all her friends and family call her Fawzia through this case. So in 2021, 31-year-old Fawziyah Javed plummeted to her death after she was pushed from Arthur's Seat, an ancient extinct volcano in Edinburgh, Scotland, by her own husband, whose name is Kashif Anwar. Now, Fawziyah had been preparing to leave her abusive husband, and in the meantime, she had been recording documents, documenting all the abuse he had subjected her to. And she went on to convict him from beyond the grave with her own words. When I watched The Push, the documentary, I don't think I'd ever been more proud of a woman when I knew that she came back really to make sure that he paid for what he did to her. So Fawzia was an only child. She was born in Leeds in West Yorkshire in England on September the 4th, 1989. And her parents, Mohammed and Yasmin Javed, were second-generation British-Pakistanis. Despite being an only child, Fawzia was raised in a loving family surrounded by her parents, aunts and uncles. And according to her uncle, from the time that Fawzia was 8 years of age, she knew what she wanted to be a lawyer when she grew up. She wanted to help people. Now, Fawzia was an extremely intelligent woman. She went on to study law at the University of Sheffield and did her LPC, her legal practice course, in York and Leeds, and worked in various financial and legal companies before she became a paralegal at Lyons Davidson Solicitors. As part of her practice, she did charity work for people in South Asia, never forgetting her roots. She had a passion for helping others, and she absolutely wanted to help people who were less fortunate than herself. And everyone who described her as someone who was generous to a fault. She was a beautiful young lady, and she was absolutely stunning. And she just wanted to love and be loved. In August of 2019, when Fawzia was out with her mother Yasmin in search of new glasses, she met Kashif Anwar at Vision Express. And he was working as an optical assistant, and he was at the eye doctor's office in Leeds City Centre near her home in Pudsey. I'm going to show you him. I'm not going to leave him up forever, but this is the man, Kashif. Now, shortly after their first meeting, Anwar told Fawzia that she was exactly the type of woman he would want to marry. Anwar and his parents visited the Javed family, and 3 months later, in November of 2019, he expressed his intentions to marry Fawzia. And by July of 2020, less than a year after meeting, they were engaged to be married. Now, they got married in an Islamic ceremony on Christmas Day 2020. And I will just say quite now, I am supportive of the Islamic community. I don't want anyone in here saying anything. This is not a problem from Islam. It's not a problem for Pakistani people. It's not a problem from this part of the world. This is absolutely domestic violence is rife. It's happening in the UK right now. And Fawzia was born in the UK. And this didn't happen because of any religion or anything else. And the mods won't even just mute you, they'll block you. Gone. Like, I'm not doing it. We don't blame victims in here. So her family absolutely, hi Welshie, okay. Her family absolutely believed that Fawzia was really clever and loving, and they believe she could make her own decisions, but they never liked her husband. They supported the wedding because that's what she wanted. And they said that he was always arrogant, and he came across that he thought he was better than them. Yeah, 100% Beth. We need to see this everyone. So they kind of accepted that Fawzia had made her a choice, but they tried to support her decision, but they weren't keen on him. And her mother had even said to her father, like, maybe he's different at home, maybe he's a really great guy to her, she's obviously happy. And they were trying to be respectful of their daughter's wishes. Well, you missed a couple of cases already, Emily, but we just started this one. I think her parents, because I've watched interviews, I'll read their statements out later, I do believe they thought that maybe too many people within their culture were forced to marry people, were kind of pushed into situations by family, and they were the complete opposite. They just wanted 31 Julie. They just wanted her to be happy, and they trusted her. They were like, she's literally a lawyer. She can make her own decisions. She's never failed us before. She's been a really good daughter. They just wanted to support her. One of Fawziyah's co-workers began to feel uneasy about Fawziyah's relationship because they noticed that when Fawziyah was out with the co-workers, out just having a coffee, out for breakfast, out in the bar, she would have to take loads and loads of photos and keep sending them back to him to say where she was. And I've had this happen to me a few times before, where friends I've been with are constantly trying to prove to the boyfriend back, and I see it as such a red flag of just like, you know, we're in this coffee bar, I'm with her, like it's so much. And Anwar would constantly make her do this. And the friend started to think, like, this isn't right, like, why don't you just believe you? So it was a lot, right? So the first time Fawziyah met Yasmin, first time Fawziyah's mum, Yasmin, knew something was really wrong was when Fawziyah had said to Anwar to put on his seatbelt. They climbed into the car and he responded in rage. He was screaming at her, and Yasmin instantly felt concerned for her daughter. And in that moment, she didn't even know what to say. She's like, why is this man shouting at you? Like, she just didn't get it. And obviously she was scared. As their relationship progressed, Anwar became increasingly controlling of Fawziyah and forbade her from social media, blackmailed members of the family on her phone, blocked male members of her own family on her phone, apart from her father, and took £12,000. Sorry, Deb. Thank you, Debbie. Yeah, my mind's gone blank. So he blocked all the male members, cousins, uncles, everyone from her phone. The only person she was allowed who was male was her dad. That actually blocked her family members. Then when she was asleep, he transferred £12,000 in savings she had in her bank into his own bank account while she slept. Thank you, Debbie. Now, Anwar knocked his wife unconscious in the cemetery around the same time. It was the first time he'd ever hit her. He knocked her unconscious. And he had started to do something at night time that was truly horrifying to her. So when she was asleep, sometimes awake, but always laying down in bed, he would place a pillow over her face till she could almost not breathe, and then start punching her in the head through the pillow. And this is a way of he's trying to restrict her breathing, i.e. make her fear death. And the second reason he's doing this is so he can hit her without leaving a mark. I can't even think of the panic she would have felt. It wasn't long before Fawziyah began to confide in her mother about the abuse she'd been subjected to, and told her that she had begun to put plans in motion to leave Anwar and get away. But she was not wanting to leave until she could recover her life savings, £12,000 that he had stolen from her. She's 31. Fawziyah began to make preparations to leave Anwar, and he had made it clear to her that he would never allow a divorce. He said that he was going to stay with her no matter what, and she had no choice in it. And Yasmin was terrified that her daughter would be hurt before she had the chance to get to safety. So she would brainstorm with her daughter constantly, and she was trying to convince her daughter, don't worry about the money, just leave. But Fawziyah, who was a really bright and beautiful woman, had worked so hard for this money, and she felt like it would be a deposit on her future. And I don't blame her for this. I know Chloe, and in hindsight, she probably wishes, everybody wishes, she wishes for sure, that she had left. But she was thinking, to go put yourself through law school, do all these things, and get £12,000, that must have meant the world to her. But obviously, in hindsight, I wish she'd just and I would say to all women in here, you can replace all your paperwork, your birth certificate, your passport. You can absolutely, money will not save your life. I started from the ground up here again, went into a refuge with one bag of stuff, left everything. I've never been happier. That peace that you buy, that feeling of not walking on eggshells, the feeling of just being alive and just living and reading again and being able to take stuff in, you can't replace that feeling. Yeah, 100% Jojo. So Fawziyah came up with a code word with her family, so that if she would call or text them this code word, which was actually "I like cream cakes," they would know she was in danger, life or death, and that they would call the police. Now, I also want to just say, and I want to make this really clear, in hindsight, we're kind of, why didn't she leave, right? But that's the one question that I think it's the worst question in the world. And we all do it, right? We're because we wish she was alive so badly. But As well as the money, this would have been such a scary time. And the average woman takes 7 times before they fully leave domestic abuse. 7 times. Some women never make it out. And I always say, like, we say, why didn't she leave? But we know now, statistically, the time you're most likely to die from domestic abuse is when you try to leave. And a lot of women will be aware of that the most dangerous time is when an abuser loses all power. And at that point, it becomes your life is at risk. So I always say, remember those statistics. Remember, like, not everybody can leave straight away. And I also want to tell you that if you are in a domestic abuse relationship right now, like, no one needs to tell me, keep yourself safe. If somebody tries to restrict your breathing, i.e. by the pillow, or tries to strangle you, you are 500 times more likely to die from domestic abuse. If you have somebody in your life who their mode is to go for your throat, you are 500 times more likely to die. Chloe Holland, is she the girl that killed herself because of bullying? I believe I've done that case, but I can do it again. It was ages ago, Em. So, at this point, Yasmin knew her daughter was intelligent, strong-willed, educated, articulate, and Fawzia had fully recognised at this point the control and abuse that she was being subjected to. She knew this wasn't... Okay, I'll do it again, Em. I'll do it this week sometime. She knew that this man that she had trusted enough to marry was a monster, and she was trying at this point to leave. Now, as she tried to gain more kind of power for herself to kind of leave and to kind of call it what it was, obviously Anwar as an abuser did not appreciate this, and he started to ramp up the control in order to keep hold of the relationship. Fawzia started to build a case against Anwar and began documenting everything. It was her recordings that would later be played in the court, and Anwar on these recordings could be heard saying, "You've ruined my fucking life. I'll tell you one thing. You end this and I will ruin your life." In another clip, he could be heard saying, "Do not challenge me. Do not be that fucking British woman who thinks she can get out of this." He honestly was constantly saying to her, "You can leave me, but you'll die." Fawzia also wanted to be sure that there were documented records of her abuse and went to the police twice about her husband and asked them not to formally step in yet, but she needed it documented. She said, "I want you to write down what I'm saying. I want you to have this on record." The second report she made to the police happened only days before Anwar would end her life. In September of 2021, Fawzia had formulated a plan about leaving, and at the time she had just found out she was 17 weeks pregnant. Now, just a month previous, she had been in hospital during the early weeks of pregnancy, and Anwar was overheard telling her at the hospital that he hoped she died during childbirth. He then said to her, look, in front of a nurse, this was at the hospital, he later said to her, "Look, if you die during childbirth, I'll be fine, because we'll be free of you. And I hope that you die while you give birth to my child." Fucking charming piece of shit. A woman who happened to be one bed over from Fawzia overheard, and she would testify later that she'd been terrified at the time, but she heard him call her a fucking bitch. He told her that he hated her, he should never have married her, he wished she hadn't, he wished she was dead, he wished she'd died during childbirth. And do you know what I think to myself? If he felt comfortable to say this to her in a hospital, what the hell was he saying to her out of the hospital? Like, I honestly... She was beautiful, independent, and we know to an abuser, really, thank you, Debbie. We know to an abuser, Fawzia would have been his absolute nightmare. Beautiful, self-contained, clever, a lawyer, had her own money. She would have been his absolute nightmare. You can't keep a woman like this down. Like, honestly, she knew, and she had said to him, "You're abusive. I don't want to live this way anymore." And let me tell you something about women when they become pregnant with their first child. You will never, no matter how meek and mild a woman is, as soon as she has a baby growing inside of her, she will become a lioness. Women will, and I can vouch for this, will absolutely allow themselves to go through years and years of abuse, but you will not do it to my children. You absolutely will not do that to my children. And I believe becoming pregnant for Fawzia had been the point where she was like, "I ain't doing this." Fawzia tried to cause as little disruption as possible during the process of leaving Anwar, and she was worried about both families. She agreed to attend I think it's Walima. I don't know if I'm saying that right, I hope I'm Walima, a Muslim wedding event that Anwar's parents had arranged for the couple. Now, Walima is an Arabic word that means feast and refers to a second part of a traditional Islamic wedding. It's a wedding reception or banquet that happens after the marriage ceremony, sometimes sometime after. And instead of leaving him, she decided to delay till they'd had this walima and gone on this brief trip they were going to Edinburgh. And Yasmin, her mum always says, like, this is Fawzia all over. Like, she was putting everyone else before herself. She realised they'd spent money on their walima. She had, am I saying it properly? Walima. Am I saying it properly? Because I don't want to be disrespectful to the Islamic faith, and I don't want people to be sat here thinking, you absolute idiot. Is it walima? Or is it that or not? Because if it's not, I'll say it a different way. Walima. Thank you, Bonnie. She knew the parents spent money on it. She knew that she just wanted to bow out, but she wanted to bow out and not hurt everyone else, the extended people. Thank you so much for that, Bonnie. So she decided, like, to just do what she needed to do. She felt was her duty, and she took it very seriously, this duty of being a wife, because her parents had been together forever, and she generally was such a beautiful person inside and out that she didn't even want to do him damage. She just wanted to leave and be safe. So she messaged one of her family and said, let me get this over and done with, and then I'm going to leave him. She said, let me do the party, the kind of holiday that we paid for. We'll go to Edinburgh, and then I'm free, I promise you. Thank you, Bonnie, for helping me. Yasmin was not happy with this decision, but she also wanted to trust her daughter. She knew her daughter was a beautiful, strong woman. She knew she was a strong woman of faith. She trusted her daughter. And I think most of us say this, right? We say we trust our daughters, or our sons. We just don't trust the rest of the world. And I think Yasmin honestly just wanted to let her daughter know, like, you know, I have the faith in your decisions, and she could never have known what was going to happen. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everyone, for the gifts. And Yasmin did message her daughter the day before the walima and said to her, please don't do this. Please don't go through this. And her daughter said, look, 5 days, Mum, and I'm back home for good. And that would never happen. Fawzia told her mum they were going to be coming back on Saturday, which just happened to be Fawzia's 32nd birthday. And she would be heading to her mum's home, get her birthday presents. And she said, I'm going to tell him I'm coming home to get my birthday presents, but when I come back, I'll never leave again. I'll be staying. But sadly, Fawzia's life would be ended at the hands of her abusive husband before she ever got to celebrate her 32nd birthday. Now, we're going to get into the timeline of what happened on those last days in Edinburgh. And the whole time is like really eerie to look back on, because we know his intention. We know his plans. We know the desperation in Fawzia as well, like where she's just like, I've just got to get through this last bit and I'm free. And it was kind of like the home run. It was kind of like, I'll just do this and then I'm done. And I believe she was done. I believe she absolutely was done. So Anwar and Fawzia got to room 108 at Edinburgh Residence Inn on Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. And they were set to check out 4 days later on Saturday, September the 4th, which would have been Fawzia's birthday. On Wednesday, September the 1st, thank you guys, the couple relaxed until 10 a.m. when they headed out for breakfast and shopping. And on Thursday, the 2nd of September, Fawzia and Anwar set out for a walk around Edinburgh, and their path was traced through CCTV, and they were seen walking into the Asian fusion restaurant Wagamama in St Andrew's Square, where they had lunch, and were later spotted at the Edinburgh Waverley railway station, where Arthur's seat is located. The footage depicts the couple walking closely, arm in arm, and Fawzia's friend later indicated that Anwar had been looking forward to visiting Arthur's seat and had constantly talked about it. For anyone who doesn't live in Edinburgh, this is Arthur's seat. Now, when Fawzia had told her friend, Labna Qasim, about the fact that they were going to go to Arthur's seat and that Anwar had really wanted to go, her friend looked at her and said, I'm not so sure you should be going. And this is because her friend said, it's a long walk. Okay, so they were seen there on the day of going to, I've never been before, so I'm just relying on online. And my geography is not great. Remember, I went on holiday to Dutchland once, and that country does not exist. So yeah, her friend wasn't worried about her because she thought he was going to push her. She just knew that Fawzia was terrified of heights. terrified of heights, and also knew that Anwar was a cruel and controlling man. So she was like, Fawzia, do you want to be up the heights with a man you don't trust? And I get this, right? Because if I'm going to go and do something that I'm not great at, I'm not brave about, or I feel scared of, or I have a fear of, I want someone with me I can trust. I absolutely want someone I can trust. And I think her friend actually was thinking, if she gets up there and she don't want to get any further, or she gets stuck from fear or freezes, this ain't the man for this. So her friend had kind of said, like, I don't think, because quite often Fawzia would be like, I can do this, and she'd get halfway up and be like, like we all do, right? We get frozen in fear. So her friend was just kind of like, I'm not sure. So her friend had been to Barcelona with Fawzia in the past, and they'd ridden in a cable car. And Fawzia had, it was really high up. Fawzia got halfway up and was just like, hell no. And she's trying to get the cable car to go back down the other way. And her friend's like, it doesn't go that way. And it was just kind of like, her friend's like, but we kept you calm because we love you. This isn't the guy for that. So anyway, Fawzia was not interested in climbing the 823-foot high landmark, and would have been much happier to go into town or go shopping. But at this point, she's thinking, I just need to do this, get it over with. It's the one thing he's been banging on about. So I'm going to go and do this, and I'm free. So when Lubna was asked in interviews, her friend, what she thought of kind of the relationship, she kind of says, like, I don't really think much about the relationship. Like, I think of Fawzia, and I met her in 2008 during freshman year at Sheffield University, and she was the most charismatic person. She said that lately Fawzia had become so frustrated by the abuse. Anwar had spent all his free time playing video games, despite the fact he'd just failed his optometry, is that the way I say it? Exams. And, he wasn't looking to work at that point. He was playing these games, and she was just doing everything. She was pregnant. She was getting so frustrated. Now, Fawzia, obviously being on the day in question, being the person to put everyone else's needs first, agreed to climb Arthur's Seat. Now, they were climbing it at 7:30 at night, and he was telling her, we need to do it at this time because I want you to watch the sunset. And they arrived too late. They missed the sunset, so they decided to walk back down and stop to take a selfie on the rocky outcrop around 8:30 p.m. And this ends up being the last photo ever taken of Fawzia alive. After taking the photo, he then pushes her off of Arthur's Seat. She's 17 weeks pregnant with this baby. Rather than calling 999 to get the Scottish emergency services out there, he calls his father for a chat. Now, after Fawzia fell, she's visibly injured and remains conscious, and she's able to speak for a short time before she dies. Now, 24-year-old Dania Rafiq, who was approached by Anwar, who says he was trying to pretend to be in a state of panic, he says, my wife has fallen. I can't find her, despite the fact you can see her body. He claims his phone was dead and he can't phone an ambulance, even though we know he's just spoken to his father for a period of time. So Dania makes her way down Arthur's Seat to assist him, and she finds Fawzia. And Dania says that Fawzia says to her, will I be okay? Will my baby be okay? Which just absolutely destroys me. That she just wanted to know she'd be okay because she really was desperate to keep her baby safe. Now, Dania tries to reassure Fawzia and says, look, we're going to get you help. Like, I promise you we'll get you some help. And Dania then calls over, like, hey, I found your wife. She's over here. Thank you, everyone, for the gifts. And Fawzia looks really terrified when she calls over her husband. She's like, don't get him. Because she already knows that Anwar's pushed her, right? And the woman honestly believes at that time that she's fallen. Now, Fawzia then, in her final declaration before death, says, don't let my husband near me, he pushed me. Now, this woman who's like, huh? Did you say he pushed you? And she says, yes, I think so. I can't remember because by now she's on her way to heaven. And she says, "Don't let Cash near me. He pushed me. And this will be the reason that he is in prison right now, because she absolutely decided, I will get justice for me and my baby." After that interaction, 2 police officers approached Dania and noted that Fawziyah was lying on the ground at this point. She's still alive. She's writhing in pain. It's clear that she's suffered a horrific head injury, and although she's got this head injury and although she's dying, she is conscious and aware of what's happening to her, which just breaks my heart. Police Constable Rhiannon Clutton asked Fawziyah what happened, and she indicates that her cell phone has been taken from her, a mobile device has been taken from her, held from her, and then he has pushed her. When she said, "Can I just check who pushed you?" she says, "My husband, because I told him I wanted a break, I wanted to leave." The officer asked Fawziyah if she had been in contact with the police about her husband previously, and she says yes, phoned the police in Leeds. When PC Clutton assures her that Anwar was with her colleagues, she replies, "Good." Tragically, as Fawziyah lay in the final minutes that she had on this earth, she constantly just cries and asks, "Will my baby be okay? Can you save my baby? Will you save my baby? Can I have some water?" And then she's just constantly looking at this police officer and Dania and saying, "Please just save my baby." And it's thought at that time that she already knew that she wasn't going to survive, and was just trying to see if there was anything they could do to preserve her baby's life, which obviously at 17 weeks of pregnancy was impossible. As the fire service actually joined the kind of the mission to try and save her at that point, Fawziyah began to rapidly deteriorate and she became unresponsive, and then she went into cardiac arrest as a result of her injuries. The medical team began CPR, and at 10:18 p.m. the beautiful woman that was Fawziyah Javed was pronounced dead, and later that night Anwar was arrested for murder. Good evening, Jimmy. I'm just going to show you a picture of him once more. I'm not going to leave him on the page because I have nothing but disdain and hatred for this man who took a beautiful young woman out of this world. This is Fawziyah here. After his arrest, he told detectives how many years he was likely to get, and said his life was ruined. Not because his wife and his unborn child had just died, but because he was going to go to prison, and he wanted to let them know that would be ruining his life. He also said, "Do you think you could release me on bond?" He had a conversation with Yasmin and told Yasmin, "Your daughter's dead," and she's called him a horrible, disrespectful person. And she said, "What kind of husband treats their wife the way you treated my daughter?" A post-mortem exam later revealed that Fawziyah died of complications related to multiple injuries caused by a fall. The court later heard from witnesses who had seen the couple after seat early in the evening and had told them the best route to get to the top, described them as a nice couple. When he later saw Fawziyah's picture all over the newspapers, he did come forward and speak to the police. Anwar was later accused of mistreating his wife while at the Edinburgh hotel the day before his wife's death, and for murdering her on the next day after pushing her from Arthur's seat and causing her the multiple blunt force injuries. With the death of Fawziyah also came the death of the unborn child, which was the second charge he faced. Anwar was he was observed on September the 1st at the hotel, threatening his wife, treating her in an abusive manner that was likely to cause a reasonable person to suffer from fear, as he repeatedly shouted in his pregnant wife's face and told her he would end her life if ever she tried to leave him. When Anwar appeared on his first day on trial in March of 2023, during the trial it was revealed that between March the 11th to the 14th, 2021, Anwar had knocked his wife unconscious while he visited the cemetery. He struggled with her, causing her to fall to the ground, and then struck her in the head, rendering her unconscious. During this time, he stole money from her account, £12,000, and relocated it to his own bank to financially abuse her and hold her ransom. And he'd also placed pillows over her face to restrict her breathing so he could punch her in the head without leaving injury. The jury, of which consisted of 15 men and women, also learned from the threats he made to Fawzi when faced with divorce, and that he would not allow her to divorce him or potentially go on to remarry, and that if she left him, she would die. Anwar maintained that while they were on Arthur's Seat, he simply slipped and bumped his wife off, which caused her to plunge from the rocky outcrop to her death. He said as they stood below the summit, he lost his balance and accidentally knocked her off. He heard Fawzi screaming as she shouted, "Oh, my foot," as she went over the edge. The defence argued that when Fawzi indicated she had been pushed, it was her misrepresentation. Obviously, the defence is going to blame her. She basically got confused. He was trying to save her, not push her, the defence said. According to Anwar, the next thing he heard was a thud as Fawzi's body hit the ground 50 feet below where she fell from. Her mum, Jasmine, was absolutely kind of a massive part of getting justice. She actually indicated her daughter had been in a violent and coercive relationship, and that after the holiday away, she had every intention of... Oh, I'm not still muted, am I? I'm not on mute. No, I'm not. No, you might have to go out late. I thought to myself, I'm talking to myself. She absolutely told them, look, she was in a coercive relationship. She was being abused. Her mother said, Yasmin, that she is haunted by 2 sentences. Am I going to die? Is my baby going to die? Through the grief she battles with, she cannot ever forget these words. Yasmin later indicated she has yet to get all of Fawzi's possessions back, and that she's had to fight tooth and nail for those things. Tegan, I'm online. She has to fight tooth and nail because Anwar's parents will not give her back Fawzi's stuff. They absolutely, his mum and dad are the reason why he is the way he is. And I will tell you this now, I guarantee it, people can tell me in this chat now if it's not right. Behind every abusive man is a mum that makes him that way most of the time. Is a mum who absolutely says, yeah, but you should have made his coffee right. Oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. Like, they absolutely enable. In my situation, that absolutely was the truth. And I'm sure most people in here are like, yep, absolutely, I was told it's my fault. If I had done this better, if I had done that better, if I was a better mother to the grandkid, like all the time. So Anwar's parents maintained they had possession of her stuff and they didn't want to give it back. And so they had to really fight for everything. Her journal, her favourite jumper, all the things that would have brought them comfort. The court previously had a recording of Anwar telling Fawziyah, anything that's here, you're going to say belongs to you. But let me tell you now, when you married me, they became mine. You're not taking anything from here. Everything you've ever owned will stay here. Because when I became your husband, you became mine. And everything you own is mine. And he said, and even though she paid the rent, he said, my house, my rules, my stuff, my possessions, you're mine. Yasmin believes her daughter was murdered by Anwar because his motives stem from honour-based control. Now, I'm going to talk about this because although I wouldn't myself have looked at this and thought honour-based killing, I believe her mum would know better than I would, and I have to respect people from different communities. Now, her mum says this is honour-based control. Her mum says this is because not everybody, but wholly, we come from communities that are represented by men being believed and men being the possessors and women having to be good little wives. And she says, I believe that Anwar, with his massive ego, believes that he should have owned my daughter. And she said it is to her honour-based control, jealousy and insecurity. And just for anyone who doesn't know, honour-based abuse is a crime or incident committed to protect or defend the honour of a family or community, often most misguidedly. She refers to the fact that Anwar would tell Fawzi that he couldn't leave him because there was no divorce where they came from. And that they would stay in a marriage no matter what. Now, this is nothing to do with the Islamic community, trust me on this, but men who use and abuse will use anything to abuse and control a woman. So where Fawziyah grew up in an Islamic household and absolutely believed it was a religion of peace and it had done so much for her and grounded her, her abuser used it to make her feel like if you leave, hey Kate, are you okay? If you leave, you don't respect Islam. We don't get divorced. We don't do this. We don't. And he was constantly trying to use it against her. Luckily, her family were amazing people, and they managed to, she had the background in the beginnings where she knew that wasn't true. Officers from Scotland who carried out the investigation indicated they did not identify this as honour-based abuse, and they said this is domestic abuse and coercive control. I'm gonna be really. I've just got rid of Hannah out of my life. Then I stand by what I say. When someone says they use the Islam card whenever they want to, you will be removed. There is no Islam card. There is no race card. And there absolutely is white privilege. So let's just stick by that. I'm not having that in my life. It's different to talk about abuse and different things. I've never seen anyone use an Islam card. So I'm just sorry, I'm not doing that. They use the Islam card when it suits. No, sorry, they don't. There's no such thing. It's actually the rest of society when they're looking for someone to blame, dig into their Islam bag. So don't come for me for that. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Stupid thing to say. Now, officers, and I can see Police Scotland's point with this. They said, look, we're not going to identify this as an honour-based killing. We are going to have this as a domestic abuse murder and coercive control. I think he was a pig of a man. I think he was a pig of a man who would use anything to control her. And I think the only one with honour in this was Fawziyah. I think she was an amazing woman. Now, okay, so the charity Karma Nirvana, who actually support Yasmin, and they do amazing for honour-based violence. They identified honour abuse in this case, and a member of the Muslim Women Network UK point out that religious divorces can be used as tools of control, which require increased awareness, and that means it crosses over to honour-based. And I get that. And this is what I mean. I would much rather listen to someone from the Muslim community who has experience of honour-based killings and knows people, and they can tell us how they would frame this as a killing, because I think those who live and have kind of, this Karma Nirvana, they're an amazing group of people, and I would trust what they say. They know all the framework and what it would take, but I do think it's both. Honour-based killing is a killing which is carried out carried out to protect the honour of a community or some kind of religion or a community, a place, a family. Thank you, Kelly. We're gonna refer to Karma Nirvana in a minute because I think it's important. But so, despite the fact that Fawziyah was an intelligent, educated woman who had the full support of her family, she ended up being murdered by a brutal bastard. Let's call him what he is. And I think this is an important message as well, because I see women all the time, and men, who go for domestic abuse, kind of thinking I'm weak, or it's because of this, or it's because of that. One thing that I learned from going into a refuge and going into like help groups and stuff that I completed in courses was there was women there who were doctors, midwives, lawyers. There were stunning women. There were beautiful women. There were women with lovely bodies. There were women who were amazing mothers. Like, abuse doesn't pick us by which one is weak or whatever. The strongest of people, the most amazing of people, it doesn't discriminate. Like, honestly, the people who are like, it would never happen to me, like nobody will ever replace my thoughts with their own. I used to think that before the degree, after the degree. I used to literally think I was strong, like it would never happen to me. And then one day you're looking in the mirror and it's his words in your head, not your own. You're fat, you're ugly, you'll never be with anyone else, literally. And still to this day, the bruises have gone, but the words stay. And it's about reprogramming it and starting to listen to your own voice. My thing is now I don't even listen to my own voice, I listen to the words of my children. I love you, mummy. I'm your biggest fan, mummy. Night, mummy. The real important voices And that's why I say to you on this app, I don't really care what people on this app think of me. If I'm their hero, I'm good. Sweet. Fine. And everything I do on here, thank you, Darcy, the things I call out on here, the things I stand for, I'm going to go into that in a minute, really, are because I have 3 little pairs of eyes watching me who are all female and need me to talk up for the victims and speak about, oh, Michelle, I love you. You guys were my victims. You guys are all such amazing people. You sit and listen to these victim stories, and though you're warriors now, most of you at some point have been somebody's victim. So the court was able to hear recordings of phone calls between Anwar and Fawziyah that she had recorded. She had saved her own evidence that would convict him. When Fawziyah went back to her parents' home for Ramadan, Anwar demanded that she come back. He said, "Who the fuck do you think you are, Fawziyah?" She said, "I'm just with my parents for Ramadan." He said, "You're a disease in everyone's life. The sooner you're dead, the better." And Fawziyah just wanted a peaceful life. Like I said to you, she wanted to be a lawyer. She wanted to go back and put money into the same communities that she was a part of. She wanted to help people who didn't have what she had. On April 6, 2023, Kashif Anwar was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. Not enough. Now, there has been a British true crime documentary. Most of us have watched. It's amazing. It's called The Push, Murder on the Cliff. And it was made about Fawziyah, and it follows the trial minute by minute at the Edinburgh High Court. It's on Channel 4. Fawziyah's parents have created the Fawziyah Javed Foundation to honour their daughter's memory and to provide support to parents of homicide or murder victims. They recognise the fact their daughter was always passionate about helping others, and let me get him off. I hate him. And they feel that this foundation is something she would have wanted to happen. According to the National Centre for Domestic Violence, within the UK, 1 in 5 adults, male and female, will experience domestic abuse during their lifetime, which equates to 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men. Last year, 2.4 million adults were victims. And every 30 seconds, a domestic abuse-related call is made to the police. During pregnancy, domestic abuse often begins or escalates, and 1 in every 3 women who are pregnant are victims of domestic abuse. These statistics are obviously drastically higher because domestic abuse, along with rape, is one of the most underreported crimes because of fear.